Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars stretch past his vessel as they traveled through faster-than-light space. He had been in command of this ship for 3 years now, and every day felt like a small victory for humanity. They were out here among the stars, talking with alien species, making friends and building trust. His crew was small but dedicated. Lieutenant Amy Sullivan handled the flight controls with expert precision. Kevin Price kept the engines running smoothly despite the wear and tear of constant travel. Dr. Lisa Grant managed the medical bay and had saved more than a few lives during their missions. Jake smiled as he thought about their latest success. They had just finished negotiating a trade agreement with the Valorian Collective, a peaceful species that specialized in advanced medicines. Earth would benefit greatly from this partnership. It had taken months of careful diplomacy, but the Valorians finally saw humans as trustworthy partners rather than primitive newcomers to the galaxy. The communication system beeped, interrupting his thoughts. Amy turned in her seat, her face suddenly pale. "Commander, we're receiving multiple distress signals. They're coming from New Haven Colony." Jake's stomach dropped. New Haven was home to 50,000 people, one of humanity's largest settlements outside the solar system. "Put it through," he ordered. The speakers crackled with static and screaming. A desperate voice cut through the noise. "This is New Haven! We are under attack. Unknown vessels are bombing us from orbit. We have no defenses. Please, anyone help us." Then the signal died. Jake grabbed the armrest of his chair. "Get us there now. Maximum speed." Amy's fingers flew across her controls. "Sir, we're 3 hours away even at full thrust." "I don't think it. Just do it," Jake shouted. He immediately regretted his tone, but the fear gripping his chest made it hard to stay calm. Kevin was already pushing the engines beyond their safe limits. The ship shuddered as it accelerated. More distress calls flooded in. Greenfield Colony reported enemy ships burning their agricultural zones. Crass Prime Mining Station went silent mid-transmission. Every few minutes, another human settlement called for help. And then their signals vanished. Lisa stood beside Jake, her medical training making her face the horror with practiced calm, but her hands trembled. Who would do this? "We haven't made any enemies. We've been peaceful." Jake had no answer. Humanity had been careful since joining the galactic community 15 years ago. They followed every rule, respected every custom, and never provoked anyone. Yet someone was destroying their colonies with overwhelming force. When they finally arrived at New Haven, Jake wished they hadn't. The planet's surface glowed with fires visible from space. Massive craters marked where cities once stood. Debris floated in orbit, the remains of the small defense satellites that had tried to protect the colony. There were no enemy ships in sight. They had finished their work and left. Amy wiped tears from her eyes as she scanned the surface. "I'm detecting some life signs. Maybe a few thousand survivors. Commander, the capital city is just gone. There's nothing left but a crater 5 miles wide." Jake forced himself to breathe. "Send down every rescue shuttle we have. Get those people off the surface." He opened a channel to Earth. "This is Commander Morrison. We need military support immediately. Multiple colonies have been attacked. Casualties are in the thousands." While they waited for a response, Kevin pulled up sensor data from the attacking ships. "Sir, I managed to recover some information from the destroyed satellites. The ships that did this belonged to the Zelthari Empire." The name meant little to Jake. He knew the Zelthari were a powerful military force in the galaxy, but Earth had never even spoken with them. There was no reason for this attack, no warning, no demands. Just sudden, brutal violence. Ambassador Helen Carter sat in the Galactic Council chamber, her hands gripping the podium so tightly her knuckles turned white. Around her, representatives from dozens of alien species watched with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. The Council had been the center of galactic civilization for thousands of years, maintaining peace and resolving disputes between worlds. Helen had requested this emergency session the moment she heard about the attacks. She had prepared evidence, collected survivor testimonies, and compiled footage of the destruction. Now she presented it all to the Council, hoping they would act. 17,000 human civilians are dead, she said, her voice steady despite her anger. 12 colonies have been devastated. The Zelthari Empire attacked without provocation, without warning, and without mercy. I am requesting immediate Council intervention to stop further aggression and bring the Zelthari to justice. Chancellor Vraxis, A towering alien with scales that shimmered in the chamber's light looked down at her from his elevated seat. His species had been council members for over 3,000 years. Ambassador Carter, these are serious accusations. However, the council must consider all perspectives before taking action. Perhaps humanity's expansion into disputed territories provoked this response. Helen felt rage building in her chest. Disputed territories? New Haven was established with full council approval 20 years ago. We followed every regulation, filed every document. There was no dispute. Another council member, a floating creature called a Sivan, spoke in a musical voice. The Zelthari Empire is a valued member of this council with a long history of stability. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for barely a decade. We must be cautious about accusations that could destabilize regional politics. My people are dying, Helen shouted, abandoning diplomatic protocol. Children are burning in their homes while you debate politics. Chancellor Vraxis stood, his imposing figure casting a shadow over the chamber. Ambassador, control yourself. The council will review this matter and provide a decision within the standard time frame of 30 solar cycles. Until then, we recommend humanity avoid further confrontation with the Zelthari. 30 cycles meant roughly 6 weeks. Helen stared at the council members in disbelief. They were going to do nothing while Earth's colonies were destroyed. She saw it in their eyes, the cold calculation. Humanity was new and weak. The Zelthari were old and powerful. The council would sacrifice the newcomers to maintain their relationship with an established empire. She gathered her documents and left the chamber without another word. There was no point in begging for help from people who had already decided her species wasn't worth saving. On Earth, President Daniel Hughes watched the council session through a video link. Beside him sat Admiral Patricia Cole, General Vincent Hayes, and the other military leaders who had been preparing for this possibility since humanity first encountered alien life. They're not going to help us, Daniel said quietly. Patricia nodded. No, sir. They're not. The question is, what do we do now? Vincent leaned forward. We fight. We show the galaxy that humans don't roll over and die when someone decides we're convenient targets. Daniel looked at each person in the room. They all knew what this meant. Humanity had been hiding their true strength, pretending to be weaker than they were to avoid threatening the established powers. That strategy had failed. Now they would have to reveal what they had been building in secret, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Contact Director Bennett, Daniel ordered. Tell him to activate the Ghost Fleet. It's time to show the Zelthari what happens when you attack Earth. Director Craig Bennett walked through the corridors of Facility 7, a massive underground complex built beneath the lunar surface. Most of humanity didn't know this place existed. Even fewer knew what happened here. The facility stretched for miles in every direction, filled with research labs, weapons testing ranges, and construction bays where humanity's true military power was being assembled. Craig had spent 15 years preparing for this day. When Earth first made contact with alien civilizations, everyone celebrated the historic moment. But Craig and others like him understood the real situation. Humanity was a newcomer in a galaxy full of ancient empires. They were weak, vulnerable, and at the mercy of species that had been building their power for thousands of years. The only way to survive was to appear peaceful while secretly preparing for war. He entered the main briefing room where Earth's top military commanders had gathered. Admiral Patricia Cole stood studying a holographic display of human territory. General Vincent Hayes reviewed casualty reports from the destroyed colonies. Captain Tyler Grant, Captain Emma Rodriguez, and Captain Paul Henderson commanded the 3 most powerful warships humanity had ever built. Dr. Stephen Walsh represented the science division that had created weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Craig activated the central display. Gentlemen, ladies, it's time to show our hand. For 15 years we've been building ships and weapons in secret. We told the galaxy we were peaceful explorers while constructing the most advanced military force in this sector. The Zelthari think they're attacking a defenseless species. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Patricia pointed to the display showing Zelthari fleet movements. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to strike Earth's core systems within the next week. They want to break humanity's spirit by destroying our homeworld. We can't let them get that close. Tyler spoke up, his voice filled with barely controlled anger. My ship is ready. The vengeance has been waiting for this moment. Give us the order and we'll tear through the Zelthari fleet like they're made of paper. Craig nodded. That's exactly what we're going to do. But first let me explain what we've built and why it will work. He changed the display to show a massive warship, larger than anything in the known galaxy. This is a Retribution class destroyer. We've built 20 of them. Each ship carries weapons based on principles the Galactic Council banned centuries ago because they considered them too dangerous. Railguns that accelerate projectiles to relativistic speeds, quantum missiles that phase through normal matter, nanite clouds that can disassemble enemy ships at the molecular level. Emma leaned forward, studying the specifications. Why do these weapons work when the Council's technology doesn't? Stephen stood to answer. Because we think differently. The Council species developed their technology over thousands of years, following certain scientific principles they consider fundamental. They use energy shields, plasma weapons, and predictable faster-than-light drives. We've only had technology for a few centuries, so we approached problems from different angles. Our weapons exploit weaknesses in their defenses that they don't even know exist. Vincent added, It's like bringing guns to a sword fight. They're so advanced they forgot that sometimes the simple, brutal approach is the most effective. Craig pulled up another display showing smaller vessels with strange, angular designs. These are our ghost ships. Colonel Ryan Foster commands the first squadron. They use a combination of stealth technology and quantum mechanics to become effectively invisible to standard sensors. The Zelthari won't see them coming until it's too late. Patricia studied the tactical information. What about their numbers? The Zelthari Empire has thousands of ships. We have dozens. Quality over quantity, Craig replied. Each of our ships is worth 100 of theirs. Plus, we have something they don't. He pressed a button and the display changed to show a massive artificial intelligence network. We've been developing AI systems that can coordinate our fleets with perfect precision. Every ship acts as part of a single organism. The Zelthari command structure is slow and bureaucratic. By the time they decide what to do, we'll have already done it. Paul looked uncomfortable. The Council bans military AI. They say it's too dangerous. They're right, Stephen said. Our AI systems are incredibly dangerous. That's why we built them with strict controls. They can only be activated during combat and only under human command. But once activated, they make our ships faster, smarter, and deadlier than anything the galaxy has seen in 1,000 years. Craig closed the tactical displays and looked at each person in the room. I need you to understand what we're about to do. Once we reveal these weapons, the galaxy will fear us. The Council will try to force us to disarm. Other species will see us as a threat. We'll never be able to go back to being the peaceful explorers we pretended to be. Tyler stood up. Good, let them fear us. My sister lived on New Haven. She had 2 children, my niece and nephew. They're dead now, because the galaxy decided humanity wasn't worth protecting. I say we show them exactly what we're capable of when someone makes that mistake. Emma and Paul nodded in agreement. Patricia and Vincent had already made their decision days ago. Stephen looked conflicted but determined. They all knew the cost of what they were about to do. Then it's decided, Craig said. Admiral Cole, you have operational command. Show the Zelthari what happens when they pick a fight with humanity. Colonel Ryan Foster sat in the cockpit of his ship, the Shadow Strike, watching his sensors show absolutely nothing. That was exactly how it should be. His Ghost Squadron consisted of 15 ships, each one invisible to conventional detection methods. They had been developed using theoretical physics that most alien species considered impossible or impractical. Ryan's crew was small and highly trained. Lieutenant Sophie Martin handled electronic warfare, a specialty that would prove crucial in the coming battle. Chief Engineer Gary Brooks maintained the delicate systems that kept them hidden. Dr. Monica Wells analyzed enemy technology, looking for weaknesses they could exploit. Colonel, we're receiving deployment orders, Sophie said. We're to position ourselves near the Zelthari staging area at Kelvar Station. Once their main fleet launches toward Earth, we hit their supply lines and communication hubs. Ryan smiled grimly. Classic guerrilla warfare. We can't match them ship for ship, so we make them blind and scared. He opened a channel to his squadron. All ships, this is Foster. Set course for Kelvar Station. Maintain stealth protocols. Anyone who gets detected before we're ready to strike will answer to me personally. The ghost ships moved through space like sharks through dark water, completely invisible and utterly deadly. The Zelthari had no idea they were coming. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this war since the day they first learned aliens existed. They thought they were crushing a weak, primitive species. Soon they would learn the truth. Back on Earth, President Daniel Hughes addressed the planet in a carefully prepared speech. He couldn't tell the public everything, not yet, but he needed to prepare them for what was coming. "My fellow humans," he began, his voice calm and steady. "You all know about the attacks on our colonies. You know that 17,000 of our people have been murdered. You know that the Galactic Council has refused to help us. What you don't know is that we're not helpless. We've been preparing for this possibility since we first went to the stars. Our military is stronger than anyone realizes. Our technology is more advanced than the galaxy suspects, and now we're going to use that strength to protect ourselves and punish those who attacked us." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This will not be an easy fight. We will face opposition not just from the Zeltari, but potentially from other species who fear what we've become. But I promise you this, Earth will never bow to those who seek to destroy us. We will fight, we will win, and we will show the galaxy that humanity deserves respect." The speech was broadcast across every human settlement, every ship, every station. Humanity had been knocked down, but they were getting back up, and this time they were bringing weapons the galaxy had never imagined. The Zelthari fleet approached Liberty Station with confidence bordering on arrogance. Admiral Kresh commanded 300 warships, more than enough to destroy any human resistance. His species had conquered dozens of worlds over the past 1,000 years. Earth would be just another entry in their long list of victories. The humans had no significant military, no advanced weapons, and no allies willing to help them. This would be a quick, easy battle. Kresh studied the tactical display showing Liberty Station and its surrounding space. The station housed 20,000 humans and served as a major trade hub. Destroying it would cripple Earth's economy and break their spirit. "All ships prepare to fire on my command. We'll reduce that station to debris within the hour." Then his sensors officer made a confused sound. "Admiral, I'm detecting multiple contacts. Human ships are emerging from faster-than-light travel. There are dozens of them." Kresh felt a moment of surprise. The humans had managed to gather a defense force. Impressive, but ultimately futile. "How many ships?" 37, sir. They're forming a defensive line between us and the station." Kresh laughed. 37 ships against 300? The humans are brave but foolish. "All vessels, engage at will. Show them the price of resistance." Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, but his ship was very different now. The peaceful exploration vessel had been retrofitted with weapons and armor. Around him, humanity's hidden fleet spread out in a careful formation. Captain Tyler Grant's destroyer, the Vengeance, anchored the center. Captain Emma Rodriguez commanded the Fury on the left flank. Captain Paul Henderson led the Retribution on the right. Each massive ship bristled with weapons the Zelthari had never encountered before. Jake opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Morrison. Remember your training. The Zelthari think we're weak. Show them what humans can do when we're pushed too far. All ships, weapons free. Fire when ready." Tyler didn't hesitate. The Vengeance's main railgun fired, accelerating a solid tungsten projectile to 15% of light speed. The shot crossed the distance between the fleets in less than a second. It struck the lead Zelthari battleship and punched straight through their energy shields like they didn't exist. The projectile's kinetic energy was so enormous that it vaporized the entire ship in a flash of superheated plasma. The Zelthari fleet hesitated, confused by what just happened. Their shields were supposed to be impenetrable. That moment of confusion cost them dearly. Emma's ship fired quantum missiles that phased through normal space, appearing inside Zelthari vessels and detonating their reactors from within. 6 ships exploded simultaneously, torn apart from the inside. Paul's destroyer deployed nanite clouds that looked like harmless gas until they touched enemy hulls. Then they began disassembling the ships molecule by molecule, spreading like a plague through the Zelthari formation. Admiral Kresh stared at his display in horror. In less than a minute, he had lost 30 ships and the human vessels hadn't even been scratched. "What kind of weapons are those? Why aren't our shields working?" His tactical officer's voice shook with fear. "Sir, their weapons use kinetic energy and quantum mechanics. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons like plasma and lasers. These projectiles just pass right through. We have no defense against this." Lieutenant Amy Sullivan piloted her fighter through the chaos, leading a squadron of smaller human craft. Dr. Stephen Walsh had equipped them with electronic warfare packages that could hack into Zelthari computer systems. As she flew past enemy ships, her fighter transmitted viruses and malware directly into their networks. The Zelthari fleet's coordination collapsed. Ships that were supposed to work together suddenly couldn't communicate. Navigation systems started giving false readings. Weapons targeting computers locked onto friendly vessels instead of enemies. Some Zelthari ships opened fire on their own allies, adding to the confusion and destruction. Amy dodged enemy fire that went wide. The Zelthari gunners unable to track her properly with their computers malfunctioning. This is Sullivan to all fighters. Their systems are compromised. They're blind and confused. Press the attack. Colonel Ryan Foster's Ghost Squadron had been waiting for this moment. While the main battle raged, his invisible ships moved into position behind the Zelthari command vessel. Admiral Kresh's flagship was the largest ship in the fleet, heavily armored and bristling with weapons. It was also completely unaware of the danger lurking in its shadow. All ghost ships, this is Foster. Target the command ship's engines and communication arrays. Fire on my mark. Ryan watched his tactical display, timing the attack perfectly. Mark. 15 ships appeared out of nowhere, materializing from stealth right behind the Zelthari flagship. Their weapons opened fire at point-blank range, hammering the rear of the massive vessel with railgun rounds and missiles. The flagship's shields, designed to protect against frontal attacks, were useless against this assault from behind. Kresh felt his ship shudder as explosions rippled through the engine section. Alarms blared across the bridge. Damage report. Sir, we've lost main engines and all long-range communications. Unknown vessels appeared behind us and the officer stopped, staring at his screen. Sir, they're gone. The attacking ships just vanished again. Ryan's squadron had already returned to stealth, moving away to strike another target. The Zelthari had no way to track them, no way to predict where they would appear next. It was psychological warfare as much as physical combat, and it was working perfectly. Kevin Price monitored the battle from the horizon's edge, making sure all human ships had the power and coordination they needed. The AI systems Dr. Walsh had created were performing beyond expectations. Every human vessel acted as part of a single unified force, responding instantly to threats and opportunities. The Zelthari fleet, by contrast, was falling apart. Their command structure relied on orders flowing down from the Admiral's flagship, but with communications disrupted, individual ships were left fighting alone. Tyler pressed his advantage, the Vengeance moving through the enemy formation like a shark among fish. His railguns fired again and again, each shot destroying or crippling a Zelthari ship. The enemy tried to concentrate their fire on his destroyer, but their plasma weapons and laser cannons barely scratched his armor. Human ships were built to withstand the kinetic impact of high-velocity projectiles, making them far more durable than the Zelthari expected. Emma deployed more nanite clouds, watching as they spread through the enemy fleet like a disease. Zelthari crews abandoned ships as the tiny machines ate through hulls, turning sophisticated warships into floating scrap metal. Some enemy vessels tried to flee, but Paul's destroyer was positioned to block their escape route. His quantum missiles hunted down fleeing ships, giving them no mercy. Dr. Lisa Grant watched the battle from the medical bay, preparing for casualties. But the wounded never came. Human ships were winning so decisively that the Zelthari couldn't even scratch them. She felt conflicted about this. As a doctor, she hated violence and death. But these were the same beings who had murdered thousands of civilians on New Haven. Justice demanded consequences. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, the entire Zelthari attack force was destroyed or captured. 300 warships had been reduced to debris and disabled hulks floating in space. Human casualties were minimal, just a few injured from system overloads and one fighter pilot who had taken a lucky hit but survived. Admiral Kresh sat in his ruined flagship, now surrounded by human ships with weapons pointed at him. His species had fought wars for 1,000 years and never suffered such a complete defeat. A communication channel opened, and he saw Commander Morrison's face on his screen. Admiral Kresh, this is Commander Morrison of Earth's Defense Forces. Your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now and your surviving crews will be treated according to the rules of war. Resist and we will finish what we started. Kresh looked at the human officer, seeing none of the primitive weakness he expected. Instead, he saw cold determination and competent military discipline. You've won this battle, human. But the Zelthari Empire has thousands of ships. This war has only begun. Jake's expression didn't change. Then we'll destroy those ships too. You attacked our colonies, murdered our civilians, and thought we would just die quietly. You made a mistake, and now you're going to pay for it. Every ship you send against us will be destroyed. Every world you use to stage attacks will be neutralized. You wanted a war with humanity. Now you have one. The channel closed. Kresh sat in silence, realizing the terrible truth. His empire had awakened something that should have remained sleeping. Humanity wasn't the weak prey species the galaxy believed them to be. They were predators who had been hiding their fangs, and now those fangs were bared. News of the battle at Liberty Station spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Council knew that humanity had destroyed an entire Zelthari fleet with minimal losses. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some species celebrated, having suffered under Zelthari aggression themselves. Others panicked, realizing that the weak newcomers they had ignored were actually a military superpower in disguise. Ambassador Helen Carter returned to the council chamber, but this time she wasn't asking for help. She was delivering a message. The same aliens who had dismissed her pleas now watched her with fear and suspicion. Chancellor Vraxis sat in his elevated seat, his scaled face showing barely controlled anger. Ambassador Carter, the council demands an explanation. You claimed humanity was a peaceful species seeking only trade and cooperation, yet you possess weapons that violate multiple treaties and technology that should not exist. How long have you been deceiving us? Helen met his gaze without flinching. We've been preparing to defend ourselves since the day we learned this galaxy was full of species like yours. Species that make rules to keep newcomers weak while the powerful do whatever they want. You refused to help when we were attacked. You suggested we deserved it. Now you're upset that we defended ourselves? A Civan council member spoke, its musical voice carrying across the chamber. Your weapons are illegal under galactic law. The railguns, quantum missiles, and military AI systems you deployed all violate treaties that have maintained peace for thousands of years. We never signed those treaties, Helen replied calmly. You can't hold us to agreements we weren't part of. And maybe if you had protected us like you promised, we wouldn't have needed those weapons. Chancellor Vraxis stood, his imposing figure meant to intimidate. The Council will not tolerate this aggression. We demand that humanity immediately cease all military operations and submit to a weapons inspection. Your advanced technology must be dismantled. Helen laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. You want us to disarm while the Zelthari Empire still exists? While species that conspired against us still sit on this council? I don't think so. Humanity will keep its weapons and continue defending itself. If the council has a problem with that, you're welcome to try stopping us. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several species demanded immediate action against Earth. Others argued that humanity had the right to self-defense. The council that had maintained order for millennia was fracturing, unable to handle a situation where someone refused to follow their rules. Captain Emma Rodriguez led her strike force toward Kelvar Station, the massive shipyard where the Zelthari Empire built their warships. Intelligence suggested it would take weeks for the Zelthari to organize a response to their defeat at Liberty Station. Emma intended to make sure they never got that chance. Her squadron consisted of 10 destroyers and 30 support vessels. It was a fraction of the force the Zelthari could field, but surprise and superior technology made up for the numbers' disadvantage. As they emerged from faster-than-light travel, Emma studied the tactical display showing Kelvar Station and its defenses. Target the construction base first, she ordered. Those incomplete ships can't fight back. Once they're destroyed, we'll deal with the defense platforms. Lieutenant Sophie Martin, who had been reassigned to Emma's ship after the battle at Liberty Station, handled electronic warfare. Captain, I'm detecting their security systems. Give me 2 minutes and I can blind their sensors. You have 1 minute, Emma replied. After that, we start shooting. Sophie's fingers flew across her controls, sending sophisticated viruses into the station's computer network. The Zelthari had good cybersecurity, but it was designed to stop attacks from known sources using expected methods. Human hacking techniques were completely different, exploiting vulnerabilities the aliens didn't know existed. Done, Sophie announced. Their sensors are showing nothing but static. As far as they know, we're not here. Emma smiled. All ships open fire. Destroy everything that looks like it might float. The human fleet unleashed devastating firepower on the undefended shipyard. Quantum missiles phased through the station's shields and detonated inside construction bays, turning half-built warships into expanding clouds of debris. Railgun rounds smashed through defense platforms before they could return fire. Nanite clouds spread across the station's surface, eating through critical systems. Within 20 minutes, Kelvar Station was a wreck. Centuries of infrastructure and dozens of ships under construction were reduced to worthless scrap. The economic impact on the Zelthari Empire would be massive, but more importantly, it sent a clear message. Humanity wasn't playing defense anymore. They were taking the fight to their enemies. Captain Paul Henderson had a different mission. His squadron was tasked with destroying every Zelthari military outpost along their supply routes. These were small installations, lightly defended, but essential for coordinating fleet movements and maintaining communication across the Empire. Without them, the Zelthari military would lose the ability to respond quickly to threats. Paul's ships moved from target to target with ruthless efficiency. Each outpost was given one chance to surrender. If they refused, the station was destroyed. Most chose to fight, their pride refusing to accept defeat from humans they still considered inferior. They died with that pride intact, but achieved nothing else. Dr. Lisa Grant accompanied the ground forces that liberated human prisoners from Zelthari detention facilities. She had expected to find survivors from the colony attacks, but what she discovered was far worse. The Zelthari had been capturing humans for years, using them for experiments and forced labor. Some prisoners had been held for over a decade, forgotten by everyone except their captors. Lisa worked tirelessly to treat the rescued prisoners, many of whom were suffering from malnutrition and abuse. As she worked, she also collected evidence. The Zelthari hadn't just attacked human colonies on a whim. This had been planned for years, a deliberate campaign to test humanity's defenses and eliminate them as potential rivals. But the evidence went deeper. Lisa found documents showing that several Galactic Council species had known about the Zelthari plans. Some had even provided intelligence about human colony locations and defense capabilities. The attack on New Haven hadn't been a random act of aggression. It had been a coordinated effort to eliminate humanity before they became too strong. General Vincent Hayes coordinated the invasion of Zelthari Prime, the Empire's homeworld. This was the most dangerous operation yet. The planet was heavily defended with orbital platforms, ground-based weapons, and millions of soldiers. But Vincent had advantages the Zelthari couldn't match. His Marines were equipped with powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any biological soldier. Their weapons were designed to penetrate the heaviest armor, and their AI-assisted tactical systems let them coordinate with perfect precision. The invasion began with Colonel Ryan Foster's Ghost Squadron disabling the orbital defenses. The invisible ships appeared without warning, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the Zelthari could respond. With the orbital platforms neutralized, transport ships landed human Marines across the planet's surface. Sergeant Chris Palmer led the first wave, his powered armor deflecting Zelthari weapons fire that would have killed an unprotected human. His squad moved through enemy positions like a force of nature, their superior technology and training overwhelming defenders who had never faced anything like them. The fighting was fierce, but one-sided. Zelthari soldiers were brave and well-trained, but they were using tactics and weapons that hadn't changed in centuries. Human military doctrine had been refined through constant warfare on Earth, producing soldiers who knew how to adapt and overcome any obstacle. Within 3 days, human forces controlled the capital city. The Zelthari government had a choice: surrender or watch their homeworld burn. President Daniel Hughes made it clear what would happen if they chose to continue fighting. Humanity had shown restraint by only targeting military installations, but that restraint could end. Director Craig Bennett sat in a secure facility on Earth, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. The military campaign was succeeding beyond expectations, but he was more interested in the political fallout. His intelligence network had intercepted communications between Council species, and what he learned was deeply concerning. 6 major species were secretly forming an alliance to contain humanity. They called it a peacekeeping initiative, claiming they needed to restore stability after the Zelthari conflict. Craig knew it was actually preparation for war. These species feared that humanity would become too powerful, so they planned to strike before Earth could consolidate its position. He brought this information to President Hughes, along with a radical proposal. "Sir, we have an opportunity here. The old galactic order is breaking down. We can either try to fit into it, or we can build something better. I propose we force a complete restructuring of the Galactic Council. Daniel studied the intelligence reports. You want to threaten war with half the galaxy? I want to give them a choice, Craig replied. Reform the council into something fair and just, or watch it collapse completely. We have the Commander Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, stood in the administrative center of what used to be Zelthari military headquarters. The building had been repurposed as the command hub for the occupation forces. Around him, human officers worked alongside Zelthari civilians who had chosen to cooperate with the transition. It was strange seeing former enemies working together, but Jake understood the necessity. Occupation wasn't about revenge. It was about building something better from the ruins of war. Engineer Kevin Price led reconstruction teams across former Zelthari worlds. His job was to repair the infrastructure damaged during the conflict and help civilian populations recover. Kevin had expected resistance and hatred, but instead he found mostly relief. The Zelthari people had suffered under their empire's military government for generations. Many saw Earth's occupation as liberation rather than conquest. Admiral, you need to see this, Kevin said during one of their regular meetings. He pulled up survey data from the agricultural world of Theros. The Zelthari government had been taking 70% of this planet's food production to feed their military. The civilian population was barely surviving. We've reduced that to 30% for necessary support services, and the people are treating us like heroes. Jake studied the reports. The Empire kept its own people oppressed to fund constant military expansion. No wonder they collapsed so quickly when we cut off their supply lines. He made a note to increase food shipments to Theros. Make sure these people have enough to eat. I want the galaxy to see that humans treat conquered populations better than their own government did. But not everyone was focused on humanitarian efforts. Lieutenant Sophie Martin worked in the intelligence division, monitoring communications across the galaxy. What she discovered kept her awake at night. 6 major council species were coordinating military buildups along their borders with human-controlled space. They called it defensive preparation, but the force composition suggested offensive planning. We have a problem, Sophie told Director Craig Bennett during a secure briefing. The Corthan Federation, Civan Alliance, and 4 other species are building a combined fleet. Current estimates put it at over 2,000 ships. They're not being subtle about it either. This is meant to intimidate us. Craig had been expecting this. They're scared. We defeated the Zelthari Empire in less than a month. Now they're wondering if they're next. Have you identified their likely targets? Sophie pulled up star charts. If they attack, they'll strike our forward bases at Epsilon Station and Darwin's World. Those positions are key to maintaining our supply lines. Without them, our occupied territories become vulnerable. Then we need to make it clear that attacking those bases would be suicide, Craig replied. But we also need to give them a way out that doesn't involve war. People make stupid decisions when they're afraid and see no alternatives. President Daniel Hughes convened an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. Admiral Patricia Cole presented military options for responding to the Allied fleet. General Vincent Hayes argued for a preemptive strike to eliminate the threat before it fully formed, but Ambassador Helen Carter had a different proposal. We need to give them what they're afraid we won't give them. Helen explained. The Council species are building this fleet because they think we're going to conquer the galaxy. We need to prove we're not interested in conquest. We need to show them we want justice, not domination. Daniel listened carefully. He had been considering something similar. You're suggesting we propose council reforms? More than propose, Helen replied. We demand them, but not for our benefit, for everyone's benefit. The current council system allows powerful species to abuse weaker ones without consequences. That's what led to the Zelthari attack. If we fix the system, everyone wins. Patricia looked skeptical. And if they refuse? We'll have announced our intentions and given up the element of surprise. Then we'll have the moral high ground when we dismantle their fleet, Daniel said quietly. I'm tired of Earth being painted as the aggressor when all we've done is defend ourselves and help those who needed it. Let's make one genuine attempt at peace. If they reject it, the galaxy will know the next war is their fault, not ours. Captain Tyler Grant positioned his destroyer, the Vengeance, at Epsilon Station along with 19 other capital ships. They had been ordered to hold this position no matter what. The Allied fleet was gathering just 3 light-years away. easily within striking distance. Tyler knew that if fighting started, his forces would be outnumbered 100 to 1, but he also knew that human ships were worth more than their numbers suggested. Each destroyer carried enough firepower to destroy 50 conventional warships. The Ghost Squadron under Colonel Ryan Foster was positioned in stealth throughout the region, ready to strike from unexpected angles. And if things got really desperate, Earth had authorized the use of their newest weapon, quantum disruptors that could shut down faster than light travel across an entire star system, trapping enemy fleets where they could be systematically destroyed. Captain Emma Rodriguez commanded the defense forces at Darwin's World. Her position was even more precarious than Tyler's. The planet housed 100,000 human civilians plus twice that many refugees from former Zelthari colonies. If the Allied fleet attacked, she would have to defend all those lives with just 15 ships. Emma spent her time preparing evacuation plans and hardening defensive positions. But she also did something else. She opened communication channels with the Allied fleet, specifically targeting junior officers and enlisted personnel who might question their orders. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Forces. I'm sending this message to every member of the Allied fleet. Your governments tell you that humanity is a threat that must be contained. But ask yourselves, what have we actually done? We defended ourselves when attacked. We liberated colonies suffering under Zelthari oppression. We're rebuilding worlds that your council ignored. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we've had plenty of opportunities. Instead, we're offering peace and cooperation. Your leaders are preparing to start a war based on fear, not facts. I hope you'll think carefully about whether that's a war worth fighting. The message was simple but effective. Within days, dissent began spreading through the Allied fleet. Crews who had been told they were defending the galaxy started questioning whether they were actually the aggressors. Dr. Stephen Walsh worked on a project that could change everything. He had been studying the ancient records of the Galactic Council, documents so old that most current council members didn't even know they existed. What he found was revolutionary. The council wasn't always like this, Stephen explained to President Hughes during a private meeting. When it was founded 10,000 years ago, it had clear principles. All species had equal votes regardless of size or military power. Aggressive warfare was punished regardless of who started it. Trade and cooperation were encouraged over competition and conquest. Daniel studied the ancient documents. What happened? The same thing that always happens, Stephen replied. Powerful species found ways to bend the rules in their favor. Over thousands of years, they transformed the council from a democracy into an oligarchy. The current system isn't what the founders intended. It's a corruption of their vision. Daniel saw the opportunity immediately. If we present this evidence, we're not demanding that the council change. We're demanding that it return to its founding principles. Exactly, Stephen said. And any species that opposes that is admitting they prefer corruption and injustice. It puts them in an impossible position politically. Ambassador Helen Carter returned to the council chamber one final time. The chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. The tension was palpable. Everyone knew this meeting would determine whether the galaxy descended into a massive war or found a path to peace. Helen placed the ancient documents on the podium in front of her. Chancellor Vraxis, members of the council, I come before you with evidence that will change how we view galactic governance. These are the founding documents of the Galactic Council, written by your ancestors 10,000 years ago. She activated a holographic display showing the original council charter. According to these documents, the council was established on principles of equality, justice, and mutual protection. Every species, large or small, old or new, had equal voice and equal protection under galactic law. Aggressive warfare was to be punished regardless of the aggressor's political power. Chancellor Vraxis shifted uncomfortably. Those are ancient ideals from a simpler time. The galaxy has become more complex. No, Helen replied firmly. The galaxy has become more corrupt. Your council allowed the Zelthari Empire to attack my people because we were new and weak. You ignored justice because protecting us would be politically inconvenient. That's not complexity. That's moral failure. She let her words hang in the air before continuing. Humanity demands that the Galactic Council return to its founding principles. Equal representation for all species. Consistent enforcement of laws against aggression. Transparent governance that serves all members. not just the powerful ones. These aren't new demands. They're what your own ancestors established as the foundation of galactic civilization.